I sit in Caleb Whitaker's law office. My black funeral dress still crisp despite being worn 3 days ago for Uncle Ben's service. The fabric scratches against my skin, a constant reminder of loss that matches the hollow feeling in my chest. Caleb adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses, shuffling papers with practiced precision. Sunlight streams through Venetian blinds, creating prison bar shadows across the polished mahogany conference table. As the sole beneficiary of Benjamin Thomas's estate, Caleb begins, his voice gentle but firm. You inherit approximately $1.8 million in liquid assets, a majority stake in Arcadia Home and Living valued at $14.9 million, and the Craftsman estate, conservatively appraised at $2.2 million. I nod mechanically, the numbers washing over me like cold water. Uncle Ben had prepared me for this, mentioning the business would be mine someday. But someday wasn't supposed to be at 26. Someday was supposed to be decades from now, after thousands more Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings with the only real parent I'd ever known. There are some additional personal items, Caleb continues, sliding a folder toward me. Your uncle's watch collection, his classic Thunderbird, and the conference room door swings open without a knock. I turn, expecting Caleb's secretary with more coffee. My heart stops. Grant and Nadine Thomas stand in the doorway, looking older but unmistakable. My father's once dark hair now salt and pepper. My mother's face lined but still beautiful in that distant way I remember from childhood. 16 years. 16 years since they left me with nothing but a hastily scrawled note. My hands begin to shake uncontrollably. The coffee cup rattles against its saucer, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. My heartbeat becomes a physical presence, pounding in my ears like someone trying to break down a door. We heard about Benjamin's passing, Grant says, stepping forward with practiced sympathy dripping from every word. We're so sorry for your loss, honey. Honey. The endearment lands like a slap. My stomach twists violently, bile rising in my throat. The room tilts slightly, the edges of my vision blurring. I grip the table edge, feeling the cool wood under my fingertips, desperately searching for something solid as my childhood abandonment trauma floods back with tsunami force. You can't be here, I whisper, barely recognizing my own voice. You left me. You chose to leave. My mother takes a step toward me, her perfume still the same, after all these years wafting across the table. Stella, sweetheart, did you know they were coming? I ask Caleb desperately, my eyes never leaving my parents' faces. His stunned expression answers before his words can. I most certainly did not, he says, rising to his feet with surprising speed for a man in his 60s. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this is a private meeting regarding confidential estate matters. The morning I found them gone flashes through my mind with brutal clarity. Age 10, padding into the kitchen for breakfast, finding only empty coffee cups and a note propped against the sugar bowl. Uncle Ben will take care of you. Not even an, I love you or, we'll be back. Just 7 words, severing our family ties like they meant nothing. Then another memory surfaces, that first night with Uncle Ben and Iris. Warm soup despite the summer heat because Iris said it was good for the soul. Gentle hands braiding my hair before bed. Iris humming a lullaby her grandmother taught her. Uncle Ben reading Goodnight Moon even though I was too old for it because he found it on my bookshelf and thought it might comfort me. Something shifts inside me. The abandoned child who still inexplicably wants her parents' battles with the adult who knows better. My analytical mind begins to surface through the shock. What do you want? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. My father smiles, the same smile he used when convincing customers to buy the extended warranty. We wanted to pay our respects, of course, and to see you. It's been too long. I need to process Uncle Ben's death before dealing with this, I say, making a small protective gesture between us. My first boundary, wobbly but present. Grant's smile doesn't falter, but his eyes harden. Stella, we're family. We have every right to be here. We've been waiting to reconnect, Nadine adds, her voice soft and reasonable, and now seemed like the right time. The right time. Just after Uncle Ben died, just as I inherited everything he built. The realization hits me with stunning clarity: everything Uncle Ben created for me is now at risk. These people, these strangers with familiar faces, didn't come back for me. They came back for what I now have. They stand there calm and prepared, while I'm grieving and shocked. The power imbalance couldn't be clearer. Mrs. Thomas, Caleb interjects, his professional demeanor firmly back in place. Perhaps we should schedule another meeting. Miss Thomas is still processing her loss, and there are several estate matters requiring immediate attention. My parents exchange a look I recognize from childhood, the silent communication that always preceded unified action. They planned this timing deliberately, targeting me at my most vulnerable. A soft knock at the door breaks the tension. Iris appears, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in her customary bun, fresh tissues clutched in one hand. Her eyes take in the scene with startling speed, narrowing slightly when she sees my parents. "Miss Stella, I brought the car around," she says, her southern accent thickening as it always does when she's upset. "You look pale, dear." I face a choice: flee with Iris or stay and confront. The business director in me says stay, show strength. The frightened child says run, find safety. But before I can decide, Iris quietly positions herself between me and my parents, her slender frame somehow forming a protective barrier that has nothing to do with physical size. Grant's gaze slides dismissively over Iris. "Still keeping the help around, I see?" Iris stiffens but remains dignified. "I've been part of this family for 16 years, Mr. Thomas. The emphasis on family speaks volumes." Something solidifies in my chest, the first spark of real resolve. I stand, gathering my purse and Uncle Ben's folder. "Iris is family," I say, looking directly at my parents for the first time. "You two are strangers." The words hang in the air, simple but powerful. I don't run for the door, but I do move to stand beside Iris, our shoulders nearly touching. A clear message: I won't face this alone. My father's expression hardens, but my mother actually flinches. "Good, let them feel something for once. We'll be in touch," Grant says, as if he's concluding a business meeting. "I'm sure you will," I reply, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. As we walk toward the door, Iris's hand finds mine, giving it a quick squeeze. The silent support says what words cannot. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. On Sunday, I stand in Uncle Ben's kitchen, my kitchen, now watching a pot of coffee brew while sunlight streams through the bay windows. 3 days have passed since the ambush at Caleb's office. 3 days of sleepless nights, jumping at every car that drives past the house, wondering if they'll show up again. The front doorbell chimes, answering my question. I don't need to check the peephole to know who's standing on the porch. The coffee machine beeps, but I leave it, moving toward the door with my heart hammering against my ribs. I pause, hand on the knob, breathing deeply the way Iris taught me as a child after nightmares. When I open the door, they're standing side by side, looking like an aging catalog couple. Grant in pressed khakis and a blue button-down, Nadine in a cream-colored cardigan and tailored slacks. They've aged 16 years since I last saw them, but they're unmistakable. Grant's square jaw, Nadine's delicate nose. The same features I see in the mirror every morning. "You can't just show up here," I say, keeping my body firmly in the doorway. Grant smiles, the same smile he used when convincing neighbors to invest in his latest scheme. "We just want to talk, Stella. 5 minutes." I hesitate. Caleb advised against any contact, but part of me, that stubborn 10-year-old who still wants answers, overrules my better judgment. I step back, allowing them into the house where I grew up without them. They follow me to the kitchen, their eyes sweeping over the home's details, the renovated cabinets, the Viking range, Uncle Ben installed last year, the expensive artwork, cataloging. Assessing. "Coffee?" I ask, less from hospitality than a need to occupy my hands. "Black for me," Grant says, settling into a chair at the kitchen table as if he belongs there. "Your mother takes cream and sugar." "I know how Iris takes her coffee," I reply coldly. "I was asking about you two." Nadine winces, but accepts the mug I hand her. "This is a beautiful home," she says after an awkward silence. "Benjamin always had exquisite taste." I don't respond, leaning against the counter instead of joining them at the table, Uncle Ben's table, where he taught me algebra and business ethics and how to balance a checkbook. Grant takes a deliberate sip of coffee before placing a leather portfolio on the table. "We've done our research. That business is worth nearly $15 million. The bluntness of it, the naked greed, shouldn't surprise me, but it does. The thin veneer of parental concern already stripped away. And I keep my voice neutral. Nadine opens the portfolio, revealing pages of financial documents, spreadsheets, valuation reports, property assessments. "We just want to understand the full picture, honey." "Stop calling me honey." The words come out sharper than I intended. "What is all this?" Grant slides a document across the table. A complete financial analysis of your inheritance. The business, the liquid assets, the real estate, everything. I don't touch the paper. Where did you get this information? That's not important, Grant says. What matters is... It matters to me, I interrupt. You've been gone 16 years. Now you show up 3 days after Uncle Ben's funeral with detailed financial information about his estate? Nadine exchanges a glance with Grant. We tried contacting Benjamin many times over the years. For money, I say, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. You contacted him for money. Neither denies it. He never told me. The realization lands like a punch. Uncle Ben protected me from them, shielded me from their attempts at manipulation. Grant sighs, a practiced sound of exasperation. Your uncle painted a very one-sided picture of us, I'm sure. He didn't need to paint anything. You left a note saying, Uncle Ben will take care of you, and disappeared. That paints its own picture. Nadine reaches for her purse, removing a folder different from Grant's portfolio. There are things you don't understand, Stella. She slides it across the table. I hesitate, then open it. Inside are court documents, custody papers, legal statements, financial records. My eyes catch on a figure from 2009, $13,500. What is this? I ask, though the sick feeling in my stomach tells me I already know. We were in a difficult situation, Nadine says softly. We needed money, and Benjamin offered to take full custody of you if you signed away your parental rights, I finish, scanning the document with growing horror. You sold me for $13,000. That's not how it was, Grant protests, but his eyes shift away from mine. It's exactly how it was. I push the documents back. You legally signed me away for cash. The kitchen falls silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, Uncle Ben's clock, the one he wound every Sunday evening while telling me stories about his childhood. My entire world shifts beneath me. Uncle Ben wasn't just generous in taking me in, he was protective. He paid them to stay away. Every gift, every opportunity he gave me was part of a shield he built around me. His occasional sadness, the distant look he would get sometimes while watching me open Christmas presents, it all makes sense now. You planned this timing, I say, the realization crystallizing. You waited for him to die. Grant straightens, abandoning pretense. We have problems, Stella. Serious problems. What kind of problems? I owe people, he admits. $85,000 to men who don't take excuses. Nadine adds, and I've been in treatment for depression. The medical bills. She trails off. $45,000 in credit card debt. So, you're here because you need money within what, 60 days? I ask, connecting their urgency to their desperation. Grant looks surprised that I've figured it out so quickly. We're still your parents, he says, leaning forward. Family helps family. Family doesn't abandon family, I counter. Family doesn't sell their child. We'll contest the will if necessary, Grant says, voice hardening. We have rights as your biological parents. I almost laugh. You signed away those rights for $13,000. In court. Legal details can be reinterpreted, he threatens. We had bad representation. The threat hangs in the air between us. These aren't just desperate people, they're dangerous. They have nothing left to lose, which makes them unpredictable. The fact that they're willing to destroy my peace after Uncle Ben's death proves they're formidable opponents. A floorboard creaks in the doorway. Iris stands there, her eyes taking in the scene, the documents scattered across the table, my rigid posture, my parents' desperate expressions. I think that's enough for today, she says quietly but firmly. Grant glances at her dismissively. This is a family matter, Iris. Yes, it is, she replies, moving to stand beside me, and Stella is my family. My parents gather their documents, sensing they've pushed as far as they can today. At the door, Grant turns back. Think about what we said. We'll be in touch. After they leave, Iris guides me to the couch in the living room and disappears into the kitchen. She returns with tea in Uncle Ben's special porcelain cups, the ones we only used when something important happened. You heard everything? I ask. She nods. Mr. Ben saw this day coming. He prepared for it. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. Caleb's name flashes on the screen. Stella, he says when I answer. I've been reviewing some files. I have some things to show you about your parents' previous attempts. You knew? I ask. Not until today. Ben kept separate records I wasn't aware of until I found his personal safe deposit box key. There's a lot here: legal documentation, witness testimonies. Iris takes my free hand. We'll face this together, dear. Looking between Iris's steady presence and Caleb's name on my phone, I realize something Uncle Ben clearly knew. I'm not fighting alone or unprepared. I have a team: Iris with her knowledge of our family history, Caleb with his legal strategy. The foundation for a sustained campaign is already in place. Uncle Ben didn't just leave me his money. He left me the tools to protect it. I arrive at Caleb's office early Monday morning, my leather portfolio clutched against my chest like a shield. The mahogany conference table is covered with neat stacks of manila folders, each labeled in Uncle Ben's meticulous handwriting. Caleb adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses, the morning sunlight catching on the lenses. "Your uncle was nothing if not thorough," he says, sliding a folder toward me. "These are private investigator reports dating from 2019 through 2023. Ben hired someone to document every contact attempt your parents made." My fingertips tingle as I flip through the pages. Photographs of Grant lurking outside Arcadia's flagship store. Transcripts of voicemails left on Ben's private line. Financial requests ranging from $5,000 to $75,000 for various emergencies. "There's more," Caleb says, opening another folder. Audio recordings. Ben installed a special system after the first few encounters. He taps his computer keyboard, and suddenly Grant's voice fills the room, lower and gruffer than I remember but unmistakable. "Listen, Benjamin, we both know you've got the money. If you don't help out your own brother, I'll cause problems for that precious business of yours. The girl doesn't need to know about this conversation." My stomach clenches. "Play it again." Caleb obliges, and this time I focus on the background noises: clinking glasses, muted conversations. "That sounds like Charlie's Tavern. Uncle Ben never went there. They must have followed him somewhere else and cornered him." Another folder reveals medical emergency letters from my mother, each more desperate than the last. Hospital bills for conditions that, according to Ben's notes, were investigated and proven false. "This is the most significant piece," Caleb says, his voice softening as he places a court document before me. "A restraining order granted in 2021. Your uncle secured legal protection against their harassment." My eyes scan the document, absorbing the judge's assessment of repeated pattern of financial exploitation attempts and deliberate emotional manipulation. "The timing," I say, the realization washing over me. "They've been watching obituary notices, haven't they? They knew exactly when to strike." Caleb nods. "Ben suspected they would. That's why he documented everything, so you'd have ammunition when they inevitably appeared." For the first time since that terrible day in this very office, I feel something besides fear and shock. Power. Real power based on evidence, not just wounded emotion. Uncle Ben hadn't just left me his wealth, he'd left me protection. "I want to meet them," I say, my voice steadier than it's been in days. "But not here. At the store." "Are you certain that's wise?" Caleb asks, concern evident in the slight tilt of his head. "They won't make a scene in public," I explain, already reaching for my phone. "And I want witnesses." 2 hours later, I stand in the center of Arcadia Home and Living's main showroom floor, surrounded by carefully curated furniture displays that Uncle Ben spent decades perfecting. Polished oak dining tables, plush sectional sofas in warm earth tones, handcrafted bedroom sets built to last generations. When Grant and Nadine enter through the front doors, several customers turn to look. My parents are well dressed, as always. Grant in a charcoal suit that can't quite hide his thickening waistline. Nadine in a cream-colored dress that makes her appear younger than her years. I wait until they approach, deliberately positioning myself beside an antique desk that Ben restored himself. My fingers rest lightly on its surface, drawing strength from the connection. "Thank you for coming," I say, my voice carrying just enough to be heard by nearby customers without seeming confrontational. "I found Uncle Ben's files about you, all of them." Grant's confident stride falters almost imperceptibly. A flicker of something: worry? Anger? Crosses his features before his salesman's smile returns. "Stella, honey, I'm not sure what you think you've found, but—" "The court orders," I interrupt, watching his eyes widen slightly. "The restraining order from 2021, the documented harassment, the fake medical emergencies." Nadine steps forward, her perfume a cloud of expensive distraction. "Those were desperate times. We've changed. You can't possibly understand what we were going through. I understand perfectly, I say, sliding a photocopied document from my portfolio. I found the check stub, $13,500. That's what you took to sign away your rights to me. The color drains from Nadine's face. A middle-aged couple browsing nearby stops pretending not to listen. You don't understand the context, Grant says, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. We had debts, people threatening us. And I was worth $13,000. I keep my voice level, professional. This is a business negotiation now, not a family reunion. That's the price you put on your daughter years ago. For the first time, I see something genuine in my mother's eyes, shame, perhaps, or regret. Grant's jaw tightens as he glances around, noticing the store employees who have strategically positioned themselves within earshot. We should discuss this privately, he insists, reaching for my arm. I step back. There's nothing to discuss. The court records are clear. You have no legal claim to me or anything Uncle Ben left me. We're still your parents, Nadine says, her voice breaking slightly. Biology isn't family, I reply. Uncle Ben taught me that. Grant's face hardens. This isn't over, Stella. Actually, it island. For today. I gesture toward the exit. Please don't return to this store. You're not welcome here. They hesitate, clearly unprepared for this level of resistance. Grant looks like he wants to argue further, but the public setting has robbed him of his advantages. With a final glare, he takes Nadine's elbow and steers her toward the door. I remain standing, straight-backed and still, until the glass doors close behind them. Only then do I allow my hands to tremble slightly, the adrenaline rush beginning to subside. Sarah, our store manager, approaches with an approving smile. Your uncle always said you were stronger than you knew. Other employees drift over, offering supportive comments and impressed glances. The middle-aged couple who witnessed the confrontation stops to shake my hand. That took courage, the woman says. Ben would have been proud. Outside in the parking lot, I find Iris waiting beside her modest blue sedan, her eyes scanning my face anxiously. They've gone, I assure her as I approach. For now, at least. Her smile blooms slowly, warming her entire face. He would be so proud, Miss Stella. So very proud. My phone buzzes with a text from Caleb. The court records are ironclad. You did well today. Standing in the afternoon sunlight, surrounded by the business Uncle Ben built, and the people who actually care about me, I feel a strange mixture of triumph and caution. This victory, satisfying as it is, feels incomplete. Grant's parting words echo in my mind. This isn't over. I know better than to underestimate their desperation. They've had years to plan this approach, waiting for the perfect moment of vulnerability. Today I pushed back effectively, but their retreat seems too easy, too temporary. The question now is whether to press my advantage immediately, or prepare more thoroughly for what feels like an inevitable larger battle. Uncle Ben always preached patience in business negotiations. The person who rushes reveals their weakness, he'd say. As Iris drives us home, I stare out the window at the familiar streets of the city Uncle Ben loved. The first real sense of control since his death settles over me, not erasing my grief but somehow making it more bearable. Iris, I say quietly, I think we need to be ready for something bigger. She nods, understanding without explanation. Mr. Ben's files might have more we haven't found yet. The chess game has only just begun. I've won the first exchange, but the real test still lies ahead. I spread Uncle Ben's documents across Caleb's conference table, organizing them in neat rows. It's been 3 days since I confronted my parents at the store. 3 days of cold calculation, replacing the raw triumph I felt, watching them retreat through those automatic doors. These are all the legal challenges they might attempt, Caleb says, sliding a folder toward me. His wire-rimmed glasses catch the morning light as he leans forward. Your uncle anticipated most of them. I nod, studying the papers, with the same intensity I bring to quarterly profit reviews. The victory at the store satisfied something primal in me, but Uncle Ben taught me better. He'd drill into me during our Sunday business lunches. Stella, never mistake a battle for the war. They'll try to claim undue influence, I say, tapping a document outlining Ben's mental state during his final year. That he wasn't competent when he made me his heir. Caleb smiles faintly. And we have 6 months of medical evaluations proving otherwise. I've transformed his conference room into a command center. Documents spread systematically across the polished surface. Yellow legal pads filled with my notes flank both sides. Coffee cups stand like sentries at strategic intervals. This isn't emotional anymore, this is business. Uncle Ben never acted without complete information. I murmur, more to myself than to Caleb. I won't either. My phone buzzes with a text from Iris. Miss Stella. They drove past the house again. Third time today. Something cold settles in my stomach. The triumph from our store confrontation feels distant now, replaced by methodical preparation. My parents aren't just desperate, they're determined. We need to document everything. I tell Caleb, showing him the text. Every drive-by, every contact attempt, every person they speak to about me or the business. Caleb reaches for his legal pad. I'll draft a cease and desist order. It won't stop them, but it establishes a pattern of harassment if we need it later. I turn to Ben's business journals, studying his approach to hostile competition. He faced 3 takeover attempts during his career, navigating each with the same steady hand he used to braid my hair that first night after my parents left. His strategy was never about emotion, it was about preparation. They'll try to find weaknesses in the company, I say, flipping through incorporation documents. Places where they could claim mismanagement or financial impropriety. Which is why we're conducting a full audit, Caleb responds. Already underway. The hollow feeling that plagued me since Uncle Ben's death has transformed into something harder, more focused. This isn't just about protecting my inheritance anymore, it's about honoring how methodically Ben protected me for 16 years. Later that afternoon, Iris arrives with a file folder of her own. She places it on the table with careful precision, her fingers lingering on the edges. I kept track of things, she says quietly. Phone calls during Mr. Ben's illness, visitors who came by but never came in. Thought you might need it. I open the folder to find meticulous notes in Iris's careful handwriting, dates, times, descriptions of cars that drove slowly past the house during Ben's final months. They were watching him die. I whisper, the realization landing like a physical blow. Iris nods, her expression unchanged but her eyes hardening slightly. I believe they were, Miss Stella. I reach for my phone, calling Sarah at the main store. Sarah, I need you to document if my parents come in asking questions about anything inventory, staffing, finances. And ask the other managers to do the same. Already happening, Sarah replies. Your father was in yesterday asking about our supply chain, said he was just curious about the family business. A chill runs through me. They're more thorough than I gave them credit for. Thank you, I tell her. Document everything but don't engage beyond basic courtesy. By evening, we've established a network of watchers, store managers, warehouse staff, even delivery drivers, all alert for my parents' probing questions, not to confront them, just to track them. To build our case without tipping our hand, I'm reviewing security footage from the warehouse when Caleb's phone rings. His expression darkens as the conversation progresses. They've hired Martin Keene, he says after hanging up, the name landing with weight. My stomach drops. The attorney who sued Uncle Ben's company in 2018? Caleb nods grimly. The very same. He knows every vulnerability in the company's legal structure. Your parents have done their homework, Stella. I lean back in my chair, processing this new threat. They're not just desperate gamblers grasping at straws, they're strategic opponents with knowledge of our weaknesses. They're smarter than I gave them credit for, I say quietly. Caleb gathers documents into a neat stack. Intelligence without integrity is still beatable. I nod, turning back to Uncle Ben's business journals. My early victory at the store feels hollow now, a minor skirmish before the real battle. But Uncle Ben prepared for this moment for 16 years. And now, so will I. I adjust my reading glasses, squinting at the paperwork spread across Caleb's conference table. 4 days of strategic planning has transformed this once formal space into something resembling a war room. Yellow legal pads filled with notes sit beside color-coded folders. A whiteboard mounted on the wall displays a timeline of my parents' previous attempts to contact Uncle Ben, each incident meticulously documented with dates and outcomes. The no contest clause is ironclad, Caleb says, sliding another document toward me. His silver hair catches the afternoon light streaming through the Venetian blinds. Anyone contesting the will automatically forfeits any potential inheritance. Your uncle was explicit about that. I nod, tracing my finger along the paragraph in question. The language feels like Uncle Ben, precise, thoughtful, leaving nothing to chance. What about the litigation trust? Fully funded and operational. Caleb removes his glasses, polishing them with a handkerchief. Ben established it with enough capital to fight a 5-year legal battle if necessary. My stomach tightens at the thought. Not fear exactly, but the weight of what's at stake. I think of Uncle Ben, how he'd approach this methodical, thorough, leaving nothing to chance. This isn't about a quick victory like the confrontation at the store. This is about securing everything he built, everything he entrusted to me. Miss Stella? Iris appears in the doorway, a leather portfolio clutched against her chest. Her silver-streaked hair is pulled back in its customary bun, not a strand out of place despite the intensity of our preparations. I've collected the statements from all of Mr. Ben's caregivers during his illness. Every nurse, doctor, and therapist confirmed his mental clarity right up until the end. Thank you, Iris. I take the portfolio, adding it to our growing arsenal of documentation. Any word from the store managers? All financial records secured, just as you requested. Mr. Johnson called to confirm the business stability reports are ready whenever you need them. I exhale slowly, mentally checking off another item on our list. We're not winning anything yet, just positioning our pieces on the board with careful precision. The store confrontation was satisfying but ultimately just a skirmish. What we're preparing for now is war. We're approaching this exactly as Ben would have wanted, Caleb remarks, his voice carrying a hint of approval, building a comprehensive defense before they can mount their next attack. Iris hovers near the doorway, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her cardigan, a nervous habit I've rarely seen from her. Something's bothering her. Iris? What is it? She hesitates, then steps fully into the room. I was reviewing Mr. Ben's will again, and I noticed something I hadn't before. Her voice drops slightly. He named me as the backup executor, in case anything should happen to you. The revelation hits me with unexpected force. Not because it's surprising Uncle Ben trusting Iris makes perfect sense, but because of what it means now. If my parents are targeting me and my inheritance, they might also target Iris. Caleb, does this put Iris at risk? My voice sharpens with concern. The attorney frowns thoughtfully. It could. If they're researching Ben's estate planning thoroughly, they'll discover her role. They might try to discredit her, or claim she influenced Ben's decisions. A cold feeling spreads through my chest. This isn't just about my inheritance anymore. It's about protecting someone I love, someone who's been more of a mother to me than Nadine ever was. We need to expand our strategy, I say, standing up and pacing the length of the conference table. Not just protecting the estate, but protecting Iris too. I don't want to be additional trouble, Miss Stella, Iris protests gently. You're not trouble, I respond firmly. You're family, and we protect family. The words emerge with a conviction that surprises even me. 7 days ago, I was a shaking mess in this very room. Now I'm standing tall, thinking of others beyond myself. Uncle Ben would be proud of that growth, I think. My sources tell me your parents have been asking questions about all of Ben's relationships. Caleb interjects, checking his phone, including his long-term employees. My mind races with this new information. Do I tell Iris everything about the potential danger, adding to her worries? Or do I protect her by handling this myself? The dilemma twists in my stomach, another test of my evolving leadership. For the next 2 hours, we adapt our preparation work, expanding protective measures to cover Iris as well. Caleb drafts affidavits from former employees testifying to Iris's professional relationship with Uncle Ben. I pull employee reviews showing her consistent performance over 16 years. Each document becomes another brick in the wall we're building, not just around me, but around everyone I care about. By evening, the conference room table holds the complete scope of our defensive strategy. Financial records, witness statements, legal precedents, historical documentation, all organized and ready. Caleb reviews the final checklist, then looks up with quiet confidence. We're as ready as we can be. It's time. I glance at Iris, who stands by the window watching the sunset paint the Seattle skyline in shades of orange and gold. She turns, meeting my gaze with steady eyes that have witnessed 16 years of family history. Mr. Ben's plan is solid, she says softly. You have everything you need. Looking at the assembled documentation, the physical manifestation of Uncle Ben's foresight and our careful preparation, I feel a strange calm settling over me. The frightened woman who sat in this room a week ago has transformed into someone strategic, prepared, ready to protect what matters. Tomorrow will bring the confrontation we've been building toward. But tonight, surrounded by the fruits of our preparation. I know we're ready for whatever my parents throw at us next. The certified letter arrives Wednesday morning next week, its official stamp glaring up from the kitchen counter where Iris placed it. My fingers tremble slightly as I slide my thumb under the flap, tearing the paper with a sound that seems unnaturally loud in the quiet kitchen. Court summons, I announce, my voice steadier than I feel. They're contesting the will. Iris's spoon clatters against her coffee cup. After everything? I scan the dense legal language, my stomach tightening with each paragraph. They're claiming undue influence. That Uncle Ben wasn't of sound mind when he changed his will. The words feel like acid on my tongue. And they've filed for a temporary injunction to freeze all assets, including the business, while the case is pending. The papers tremble in my hands. This isn't just about the money anymore. They're trying to take everything. The house, the business, Uncle Ben's legacy, my entire life. Who's representing them? Iris asks, moving to read over my shoulder. Martin Keene. The name sits bitter in my mouth. Uncle Ben's old legal adversary, the attorney who tried to sue Arcadia 3 years ago over a supplier contract dispute. Not a coincidence. The phone rings, and Caleb's name flashes on the screen. He's already heard. They've been planning this for weeks, he says without preamble. Filed it strategically before Judge Harmon. She's known for being cautious with estate transfers. What are our chances? I ask, pacing across the kitchen floor. Better than theirs, but it's going to be ugly. They've done their homework, Stella. The emergency hearing is set for Friday morning. Friday. Less than 48 hours to prepare our defense. The room tilts slightly, and I grip the counter edge. They can't possibly win, I whisper. No, but they can drag this out for months. Caleb's voice hardens, during which time the business operations could be severely restricted. That's what they're counting on, that you'll settle, rather than risk Arcadia's stability. After I hang up, I stare out the kitchen window at the garden. Uncle Ben lovingly tended every spring. The azaleas he planted the year I graduated college have just begun to bloom, their vibrant pinks a mockery of the coldness spreading through my chest. They've been watching us, I say to Iris, waiting for the perfect moment. The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. Through the sidelights, I glimpse a familiar news van parked at the curb. A reporter stands on my porch, microphone in hand. Perfect timing. I swing the door open before she can ring again. Miss Thomas? Her smile is professional, practiced. Catherine Ward, Kiro News. We're doing a story about the Thomas estate dispute. Would you comment on your parents' concerns about your ability to manage such a substantial business during this time of grief? My stomach drops. They've gone public. No comment, I say, closing the door firmly. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah at the Bellevue store. Reporters here asking employees about you. What should we say? Another text chimes from our operations manager. 2 customers canceled large orders this morning, said they heard Arcadia might be changing ownership. I press my forehead against the cool wood of the door. Grant and Nadine aren't just fighting for assets, they're strategically undermining customer confidence, creating doubt about Arcadia's stability under my leadership. They've launched a PR campaign. I tell Iris, showing her the messages. They're positioning themselves as concerned parents worried about a grieving daughter making hasty decisions. That's despicable, Iris whispers, her normally kind face hardening. It's calculated, I reply, walking to Uncle Ben's study. And it's working. People are starting to question. I spend the next 4 hours on the phone with Caleb, implementing our countermeasures. His paralegal delivers a thick folder of documents, the adoption papers Uncle Ben prepared years ago but never filed, court records of my parents' harassment, private investigator reports documenting their financial troubles. By evening, my dining room resembles a war room. Legal briefs cover every surface. The store managers have joined us, armed with sales reports and employee testimonials about Uncle Ben's unwavering confidence in my leadership abilities. They're good, Caleb admits, reviewing Grant and Nadine's filing. They've been careful not to appear overtly greedy. Instead, they're expressing concern about preserving Benjamin's legacy. It's manipulative but effective. Some of the neighbors are actually wondering if they might have a point, Iris adds quietly. Margaret Wilson asked me today if you were really ready to handle such responsibility. The betrayal stings. Margaret has known me since I was 10. We need to be smarter, I say, gathering everyone around the table. They've been planning this for months. maybe years. We have 41 hours until that hearing. I distribute assignments with a calm that surprises even me. Sarah will coordinate employee testimonials. Caleb's team will prepare exhibits demonstrating Uncle Ben's consistent intent to leave me the business. Iris will contact Ben's doctors to testify about his mental clarity until the end. What about you? Caleb asks. I'm going to study every case Martin Keene has ever argued. I reply. And prepare for cross-examination. They'll try to paint me as emotionally unstable and financially inexperienced. As midnight approaches, only Iris remains, organizing witness statements into color-coded folders. She says gently, "So should you," I reply, but neither of us moves. The stakes are too high. Do you think we can win? I finally ask the question that's been haunting me. Iris looks up, her eyes fierce despite her exhaustion. They may have been planning this for years, but Ben was planning for this possibility longer. He knew exactly who they were and what they might try. She places her hand over mine. On Friday, we show them what real family looks like. My phone rings again, Caleb's number. Judge moved up the hearing, he says without greeting. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. Martin filed for an emergency consideration, claiming urgent business matters require immediate resolution. My heart pounds. Can she do that? She can, and she did. We have less than 12 hours, Stella. I hang up and meet Iris's worried gaze. Tomorrow morning, I tell her. They've pushed up the timeline. They're trying to catch us unprepared, she says, already gathering the most critical documents. I know. I square my shoulders, feeling something hardening inside me. Not panic determination. Call everyone. Tell them to bring whatever they have, finished or not. We'll work through the night. As Iris makes calls, I walk to Uncle Ben's study and stand before his portrait. His kind eyes seem to look right through me. I won't let them take what you built, I whisper. I promise. The grandfather clock in the hall chimes once, marking the first hour of what will be the longest night of my life. By sunrise, I'll either be ready to fight for everything Uncle Ben entrusted to me, or I'll have failed him completely. There is no middle ground anymore. Tomorrow, I either keep everything or lose it all. I sit rigidly on the hard oak bench in the courthouse, my black blazer buttoned tight like armor. The clock on the paneled wall reads 9:03 a.m. Next to me, Iris fidgets with her handkerchief, the embroidered corner rubbing rhythmically between her fingers. Caleb arranges papers with surgical precision on the table before us. Across the aisle, my parents sit with their attorney, Martin Keene. The man who once sued Uncle Ben's company now represents the people who abandoned me. Grant wears a charcoal suit that screams expensive tailoring. Nadine has opted for a conservative navy dress, her hair swept into a maternal bun that makes my stomach turn. They've positioned themselves as concerned parents, not greedy opportunists. The bailiff's voice cuts through the whispers. All rise. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Richardson presiding. The judge enters, her silver hair pulled back severely, reading glasses perched on her nose. Her eyes sweep the courtroom with practiced neutrality as she takes her seat. Be seated. We're here for emergency proceedings regarding the contested estate of Benjamin Thomas. She glances at the files before her. I understand this is a time-sensitive matter. Mr. Keene, you may present your case. Martin Keene rises, buttoning his suit jacket. His confident smile reminds me of a game show host, polished and practiced. Thank you, Your Honor. We stand before you today representing Grant and Nadine Thomas, the aunt and uncle of Stella Thomas, who have serious concerns about the disposition of Benjamin Thomas's estate. Uncle and aunt. The deliberate terminology makes my fingers curl into fists under the table. Caleb notices and gives an almost imperceptible headshake. Stay calm. Let them show their hand first. Benjamin Thomas's death was sudden and unexpected, Keene continues. He suffered from hypertension and had experienced several minor cardiac events in the months preceding his passing. During this vulnerable time, his niece, Miss Thomas, who lived with him and depended on him financially, was in a position to exert undue influence. The accusation hangs in the air. My heart pounds against my ribs, but I keep my face neutral, just as Caleb and I practiced. We have documented precedent in Carmichael versus Westbrook where a caregiver relationship was found to create presumptive undue influence. Keene presents a stack of case law to the court clerk. We believe similar circumstances exist here. and request temporary injunctive relief, freezing the estate assets until a full hearing can determine if Benjamin Thomas was of sound mind and free from coercion when making Miss Thomas his sole beneficiary. My father leans forward, his face a perfect mask of concern. We only want what's best for our niece and for my brother's legacy. He tells the judge, Benjamin built that business from nothing. If he wasn't thinking clearly at the end, decisions might have been made that he wouldn't want. The judge turns to Caleb. Mr. Whitaker, your response? Caleb rises slowly, deliberately. Uncle Ben always said Caleb had courtroom timing like a Broadway actor. Your Honor, what we have before us today is not a case of undue influence. What we have is a calculated attempt at harassment disguised as family concern. He lifts a thick binder from our table. I've been Benjamin Thomas's attorney and friend for 30 years. I drafted his will, which has remained substantially unchanged since Stella Thomas was 12 years old, 2 years after her parents abandoned her. The word abandoned lands like a thunderclap. Several heads in the gallery turn toward my parents. I have here notarized documentation that Grant and Nadine Thomas legally signed away their parental rights to Benjamin for the sum of $13,500 in 2009. Caleb slides the papers toward the judge. They have had no meaningful contact with their daughter until 3 days after Benjamin's death, when they suddenly appeared at the reading of his will. The judge's eyebrows lift as she examines the document. Mr. Keene, were you aware of this legal relinquishment of parental rights? Martin Keene's confident smile falters for the first time. Your Honor, my clients have freely admitted they made mistakes in the past. People change. Their concern now is genuine. Your Honor, Caleb continues, I also have court records showing that Benjamin Thomas had to file for protection against Grant and Nadine when they repeatedly attempted to extort money from him between 2019 and 2023. He produces another file. These include transcripts of threatening phone calls where Grant Thomas specifically mentioned causing problems for Arcadia Home and Living if financial demands weren't met. There is the granted restraining order from 2021 as well. The gallery breaks into whispers. Judge Richardson taps her gavel once, silencing the room. Additionally, Caleb says, I have an audio recording I'd like the court to hear. He nods to the clerk, who sets up a small speaker. Grant's voice fills the courtroom, tinny but unmistakable. Ben, you've got $15 million tied up in that business. What's $50,000 to you? If you don't help out your own brother, I'll have to consider other options. Stella's doing well at the company, isn't she? Would be a shame if something disrupted that. 5 Port. Nadine's face has gone pale. Grant stares straight ahead, jaw tight. This recording was made 14 months ago. Caleb explains. When Benjamin was in perfect health, long before any cardiac issues. Benjamin documented every contact attempt specifically, because he feared this day would come. The judge turns to Iris. Miss Pruitt, you were Mr. Thomas's housekeeper for 16 years, correct? Iris rises, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Yes, Your Honor. I cared for Mr. Ben's household and helped raise Stella after her parents left. And in your observation, what was Mr. Thomas's mental state in his final months? Clear as a bell right to the end, Your Honor. He ran that business every day, reviewed financials every Friday with Stella, and could tell you the inventory numbers from memory. He was planning the spring collection the day before he passed. And his relationship with his niece? Iris's eyes soften. Mr. Ben loved that girl like his own daughter. He was so proud of how she grew up, how she took to the business, said she had better instincts than he did. They had Sunday dinner together every week without fail, even when the business was crazy busy. Next, 3 store managers testify about Ben's mental acuity and his frequent expressions of pride in my business contributions. Sarah from the flagship store describes how Ben would tell customers, my niece picked that line herself. She's got the eye for what people really want in their homes. Throughout it all, my parents maintain their composed facade, though I notice Nadine's knuckles whitening as she grips her purse. Grant whispers urgently to Martin Keene, who looks increasingly uncomfortable. When all testimony concludes, Judge Richardson removes her glasses and surveys the courtroom. I've seen enough to make a determination regarding the emergency petition. The request for injunctive relief is denied. She turns her penetrating gaze toward my parents. Furthermore, I find the timing and nature of this petition highly suspect. The will contains a no contest clause, which is enforceable under state law. By bringing this action, the petitioners have triggered that clause and forfeited any potential claim they might otherwise have had. The relief floods through me like warm water. Iris squeezes my hand so tightly it almost hurts. Additionally, the judge continues, I am ordering the petitioners to pay all legal costs associated with this emergency hearing. She peers over her glasses directly at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this court will not be used as a tool for harassment or attempted extortion. Based on the documentation presented today, I am issuing a restraining order, prohibiting you from coming within 1,000 feet of Stella Thomas, her residence, or any Arcadia home and living property. Grant's composure finally cracks. His face flushes red, a vein pulsing at his temple. This is outrageous, he starts, but Martin Keene places a restraining hand on his arm. Any further contact in violation of this order will result in contempt charges, Judge Richardson warns. This case is dismissed. The gavel strikes with finality. People rise around us. Several courthouse observers nod approvingly in my direction. The deputy approaches my parents with restraining order paperwork. Grant's shoulders slump as he signs, his earlier confidence evaporated. It's over, Caleb says quietly. They have no further legal recourse. Iris dabs at her eyes with her handkerchief. He's watching over you, dear. Mr. Ben planned for everything. I watch as my parents gather their things, defeated. Nadine glances back once, her expression unreadable, before they disappear through the courtroom doors. 16 years of documentation just paid off, Caleb remarks, patting the legal files. Ben knew exactly what he was doing. As we walk into the sunshine outside the courthouse, I feel lighter than I have since Uncle Ben died. The inheritance is secure, the business is safe. Most importantly, the truth about real family has been affirmed in the most public way possible. Iris links her arm through mine as we descend the courthouse steps. What are you thinking, Miss Stella? I touch Uncle Ben's watch on my wrist, feeling its steady tick against my pulse. I'm thinking that loyalty isn't about blood. It's about showing up, day after day, year after year. A small crowd of store employees waits at the bottom of the steps, breaking into applause as we approach. In their faces, I see the community Uncle Ben built, the true legacy he left behind. I am no longer the abandoned child, or even just the grieving niece. I am the guardian of everything. Ben valued the business he built, the people he employed, and the family he chose. My shoulders straighten with the responsibility and the privilege of carrying his legacy forward. And for the first time since his death, I know with absolute certainty that I am equal to the task. I stand at the podium, fingertips resting lightly on polished wood, looking out at a sea of faces. 6 months since the courtroom victory, and the transformation still catches me off guard sometimes. Arcadia Home and Living was built on one simple principle. I say into the microphone, voice steady where it once might have trembled. That quality matters in our products, in our service, and most importantly, in our relationships. The Seattle Business Journal's annual award ceremony buzzes with quiet energy. 300 of the city's most influential business leaders fill the ballroom, and not one of them makes me doubt myself anymore. The Crystal Community Leadership Award catches the light beside me, Ben's legacy made tangible. In the front row, Iris beams, her silver-streaked hair, elegantly styled for the occasion. Beside her, Caleb adjusts his glasses, offering a small nod of approval. My true family, bound by choice rather than blood. My uncle taught me that integrity in business mirrors integrity in life. I continue. And when Arcadia opens its Tacoma location next month, we'll bring that same commitment to a new community. The memory of those chaotic days after my parents' return feels distant now. The newspaper articles about the court case line my office drawer, not as a reminder of pain, but of strength. Local business hire wins decisive victory, read the headlines. The coverage validated what Ben had always told me. The truth, when properly prepared and presented, eventually wins out. My parents left town within 48 hours of the judge's ruling. Their threats proved as empty as their promises had been 16 years ago. The restraining order remains filed with every police department in a 100-mile radius, though we haven't needed it. People willing to abandon a child for money rarely show the courage to face consequences. The Benjamin Thomas Foundation officially launches next week. I announce, warmth spreading through my chest at the whispers of approval. Our mission is simple: to support those rebuilding lives after family betrayal. Because sometimes the family that matters most is the one you choose. From the corner of my eye, I catch Margaret Wilson, our newest store manager, dabbing at tears. 3 weeks ago, she stood in my office, shaking just as I once had in Caleb's conference room, explaining how her brother was pressuring her to share our upcoming product line with competitors. The parallel wasn't lost on me. When people face impossible family pressures, I'd told her then, they deserve more than sympathy, they deserve protection. Caleb drafted a cease and desist the same day. Iris took Margaret for coffee and shared stories of Ben's unwavering boundaries. Security installed new protocols to protect our design files. The systematic support I provided felt nothing like my own panicked reaction months before. Sleep comes easily now. Morning coffee on the porch has become a quiet celebration rather than a jumpy waiting game. The business thrives, revenue up 23%, employee satisfaction at record levels. But these external markers pale beside the internal shift. I no longer wonder if I'm worthy of what Ben built. I know I am. The foundation has already helped 3 individuals successfully defend their boundaries. I continue at the podium. People just like our own employees who face impossible choices between loyalty and self-protection. In the audience, Thomas Reynolds nods appreciatively. As our youngest department manager, he benefited from the foundation's legal support when his parents attempted to access his newly established investment accounts. The look of relief on his face when I promised company resources still warms my heart. Iris Pruitt will serve as the foundation's program director, I announce, watching her straighten with pride. Her official role as estate manager and family advisory board member has formalized what she's always been, the heart of our unconventional family. Nobody understands better how to help people find their chosen families. After the ceremony, Caleb approaches with champagne flutes. His retainer has been enhanced, making him our permanent legal advisor. Another anchor in the storm. Ben would be proud, he says simply. He prepared me for this, I reply. I just didn't know it at the time. The business center buzzes around us, but my thoughts drift to that first night, after my parents left me, Iris braiding my hair, Ben reading Goodnight Moon. They chose me before I could choose them. Now I honor that choice every day. Back at the estate, I slip off my heels and pad into Ben's old study, my study now. The expansion plans for Arcadia's 3rd location spread across the desk. Decisions that once would have paralyzed me now energize instead. No second guessing, no fear of failure, just clear vision and decisive action. The phone rings. It's the foundation's first scholarship recipient, calling to share that she's completed her business degree. Another life rebuilding, another circle completing. Uncle Ben taught me that love is a choice we make every day. I tell her, the truth of it settling in my bones. Sometimes the hardest part is believing we deserve to make that choice. As I hang up, I catch my reflection in the window. I've become the leader Ben always saw in me. The abandoned child is still there, but she's no longer driving my decisions. Instead, she informs my compassion. The evening breeze carries the scent of Iris's garden through the open window. Tomorrow brings board meetings, foundation work, and interview preparations for the Tacoma store. But tonight, in this quiet moment, I acknowledge the journey. When people show you who they are, believe them, and then choose who deserves your loyalty. Not a lesson I wanted to learn twice, but one I'll never forget. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your values. Ben knew that. Now I do too.
My key won't turn in the lock. I jiggle it, twist harder, but the familiar click doesn't come. Standing on my childhood porch, suitcase at my feet, and 3 boxes stacked beside me, I frown at the stubborn door. Dad always kept this lock well oiled. I try again, shoulder pressing against the door. Nothing. Weird. Mom knew I was coming home today. After 6 years away, college, grad school, internship, I'm finally back to claim my inheritance, to live in the house Dad left me when he died. The house where Mom and Greg and my stepbrother Josh had been living, keeping it up for me while I was gone. The door suddenly swings inward. Greg stands there, his 6-foot frame blocking the entrance. He's wearing a faded Patriots t-shirt and jeans, casual for a Wednesday afternoon. His eyes widen, genuine surprise flickering across his face before he masks it. "Rachel, we weren't expecting you until next week." His voice is pitched too high, smile too tight. "I told Mom I'd be here today. We spoke last week." I keep my tone light, but something cold settles in my stomach. Right. Memory's not what it used to be. He steps back, reluctantly allowing me space to enter. Come in. I step into a house I don't recognize. The entryway that once held Dad's antique hall tree now features a sleek console table I've never seen before. The warm gold walls are now stark white, Dad's collection of nautical prints gone. In their place hang modern abstract canvases in shades of gray and black. My suitcase slips from my fingers, thudding against the hardwood. You've redecorated. The words feel inadequate in my mouth. Greg runs a hand through his thinning hair. Deborah wanted to freshen things up a bit. You know how she is. I don't, actually. My mother never cared about interior design when Dad was alive. Where's Mom? I ask, still frozen in the entryway. Shopping. Should be back soon. Greg glances at my luggage. You know, Rachel, you might want to look at apartments soon. The rental market here is pretty competitive these days. I stare at him. Apartments? Sure. Young professional like yourself, you'll want your own space. He gestures vaguely. Independence and all that. The implication hits me like ice water. He doesn't expect me to stay. In my own house. Before I can respond, the front door opens. Mom bustles in with grocery bags, her blonde hair shorter than I remember, more highlighted. She stops when she sees me, eyes darting nervously between me and Greg. Rachel, you're here already. She sets the bags down and gives me a quick hug that feels hollow. We were just talking about you this morning, weren't we, Greg? Greg nods, not meeting my eyes. I was saying how Rachel might want to look at apartments. Mom's smile falters. Well, no rush on that. You can stay in the guest room for now. The guest room. Not my room. Where are my things, I ask? From my bedroom? Mom's gaze shifts away. We boxed up some things in the attic. Josh needed more space as he got older, so we gave him your room. It made sense, since you were away at college. Something inside me cracks. And Dad's study? The nervous glance between them tells me everything before Mom speaks. That's Josh's bedroom now. He's 15, he needed his privacy. Your father's been gone 6 years, Rachel. 6 years. I was 18, standing next to his casket, when the lawyer handed me the deed to this house. Dad had left it to May, his only child, his daughter. The house he'd built with his own hands. Mom, I say carefully, could I see Dad's study, Josh's room? Mom's hands flutter nervously. It's completely different now. Nothing like you remember. I still want to see it. I walk through the transformed living room, past the kitchen with its new granite countertops, and down the hallway. The door to Dad's study stands closed. I take a breath and push it open. Basketball posters cover the walls. A twin bed with rumpled navy bedding sits where Dad's desk once stood. A gaming setup occupies the corner that held his bookshelves. The bay window where he used to read remains, but heavy blinds now block the garden view he loved. Nothing remains of him. Not a single trace. I stand motionless, absorbing the erasure of my father from his own home. The home he left to me. I remember his funeral, the weight of the house deed in my hand, the responsibility it represented. It's just for a while, Mom had said back then. Just until you finish college. We'll keep up the house for you. I trusted her. Trusted them. Over the years, I'd noticed small changes during holiday visits. Family photos disappearing. Dad's books vanishing from shelves. Greg subtly asserting ownership and comments about our house and our renovations. But I dismissed my unease, focusing on studies, on building my future. I turn and find Mom watching me from the doorway, her hands twisting together. Rachel, we should talk. Yes, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. We should. In the kitchen, Mom sits across from me, eyes avoiding mine. Greg has conveniently disappeared. What's going on, I ask. Why does Greg think I should get an apartment instead of living in my house? Mom flinches at my house. Greg believes, that is, we thought. She takes a shaky breath. Greg thinks the house belongs to us now. The world stops. The house Dad left to me in his will, the one I have the deed to? He says after 6 years of us living here, paying utilities, making improvements, she trails off. You knew, I whisper, the betrayal crushing my chest. You knew it was still legally mine, and you let him believe what? That you could take it from me? I didn't know what to do, she admits, tears forming. Greg was so insistent, and you were gone, building your life. It just seemed easier to lie? For 6 years? My voice rises despite my efforts to contain it. To erase Dad from his own home? To let me believe everything was fine while you plotted to take my inheritance? The tears spill down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Rachel. But sorry can't rebuild 6 years of deception. Sorry can't erase the choice she made every day to betray me, her own daughter. What would you do if you discovered your own family had been plotting to steal your inheritance for years? Would you forgive them, or would you fight back? My decision will change everything. The attic door creaks as I push it open. Dust motes dance in the beam of my flashlight, swirling through stale air that hasn't circulated in years. I step carefully across the unfinished plywood, testing each board before putting my full weight down. "Dad?" I whisper to the darkness, as if he might answer. My light catches on a stack of cardboard boxes pressed against the far wall. Each bears a label in Mom's neat handwriting. Thomas, books, Thomas Navy, Thomas, photos. A family archive tucked away like shameful secrets. I kneel beside the nearest box and lift the lid. Dad's leather-bound copy of Moby Dick sits on top, the one he read aloud to me every summer at the beach house. Beneath it, dozens more volumes, spines cracked from use, pages dog-eared at his favorite passages. I press the book to my chest, inhaling the faint scent of his pipe tobacco that still clings to the pages. 3 boxes down, I find what I'm looking for, a battered metal filing cabinet drawer that used to sit in Dad's desk. I slide it open and rifle through the hanging folders until I find one marked house. Inside, the original deed with my name on it. Property tax records. And a stack of mail addressed to me, college alumni newsletters, credit card offers, voter registration confirmation spanning the last 6 years. All opened, all hidden away. Beneath these, a folder labeled Utilities catches my eye. I flip it open to find 6 years of electric bills, water bills, property tax statements, all in Greg's name. Methodical documentation establishing his residency, his claim to my home. My fingers tremble as I sort through the evidence of their deception. They'd been intercepting my mail, establishing Greg's residency, systematically erasing Dad while setting up a legal claim to adverse possession. Oh my God, I breathe, the weight of the betrayal pressing against my ribs like a physical pain. A floorboard creaks behind me. "What are you doing up here?" Josh stands in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, his lanky frame silhouetted against the hall light. I straighten, letters still clutched in my hand, going through my father's things. His eyebrows pull together. "Mom said not to mess with that stuff." "I bet she did." I meet his gaze directly. "Josh, did you know this house belongs to me? Legally?" He shifts his weight, confusion flickering across his face. "What are you talking about? This is our house. We've lived here since I was 9. Because my dad left it to me when he died, and I let Mom and Greg stay here while I was at college." I keep my voice calm despite the tremor in my hands. They were supposed to be taking care of it for me until I came back. Josh's face hardens. "That's not true. Dad bought this house." "Is that what he told you?" "We fixed it up. We've paid the bills for years." His voice cracks slightly. "My room was my dad's study. I finished for him. The study in the house he built with his own hands, that he left to his only daughter." Josh backs away, shaking his head. "You're lying." His rejection stings more than I expected. During holiday visits, I'd helped him with math homework, brought him souvenirs from my travels, tried to be the big sister he never had. Now I'm a threat to everything he believes about his home. I have the deed, Josh, and his will. I hold up the papers. I'm not lying, they are. He turns and thunders down the stairs, calling for his father. Minutes later, I hear his bedroom door slam, music blasting through the wall sangre, pulsing beats that vibrate through the floor. The universal language of teenage resentment. My phone vibrates as I descend the stairs. Megan's name flashes on the screen, me college roommate, now working at an accounting firm downtown. "Rachel, I just got your text. Are you okay?" I duck into what used to be the guest room, now my temporary space, and close the door. "Not really." My voice drops to a whisper. "The situation is worse than I thought. They've been plotting to take the house for years." Jesus. She pauses. "Listen, my apartment has a spare bedroom. It's yours if you need it." Relief washes through me. "Thanks, Meg. I might take you up on that while I sort this out." "For how long?" "Until I get my house back." The determination in my voice surprises even me. After hanging up, I call my new boss at Mitchell Financial. I've only been there 3 days, but Douglas had been Dad's friend before he became my employer. "Rachel," he answers warmly. "Everything all right with the move-in?" "Actually, no." I explain the situation in clipped professional terms. A long silence follows. Then, Take whatever time you need this week. Work remotely when you can. Your father would want me to help. Another ally. I add his name to my growing list. It's called adverse possession. Greg explains the next evening, leaning back in what used to be Dad's chair at the dining table. We've maintained continuous residency for over 5 years, paid all the utilities, made improvements to the property. While hiding my mail and pretending everything was fine, my voice stays measured even as rage simmers beneath. That's mail fraud, Greg. A federal offense. He waves a dismissive hand. You're being dramatic. We were just keeping things organized until you settled down. By erasing my father from his own home? By moving your son into his study? I place phone on the table, recording app running. Tell me more about how that was for my benefit. Mom reaches across the table, tears brimming in her eyes. Rachel, please, we're family. Everything we've done has been to provide stability for all of us, including you. Family doesn't do this. I slide a business card across the table. I spoke with Kenneth Bryant today. Dad's old friend from law school, remember? He says adverse possession claims require good faith belief in ownership. Your deliberate deception proves bad faith. Greg's face flushes. You went behind our backs to a lawyer? I'm protecting what's mine. I meet his gaze steadily. Kenneth also mentioned that Shannon Miller next door has been concerned for years about how quickly you removed all traces of Dad after he died. She's happy to provide a statement. The mask slips. Greg's eyes narrow, his mouth twisting with contempt. You ungrateful little. Greg, my mother cuts him off, then turns to me, her voice softening to that pleading tone I've always hated. Rachel, honey, think about what you're doing. We're the only family you have left. Would your father want you to tear us apart like this? The emotional manipulation is so transparent it almost makes me laugh. Don't you dare invoke Dad's wishes when you've spent 6 years erasing him from this house. Josh appears in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed, arms crossed defensively over his chest. So what happens to me? Do you even care? I meet his gaze. This isn't about you, Josh. It's my home too. His voice breaks. You show up after years of being gone and suddenly we're supposed to just leave because of some paper? Not just some paper. The law. I stand, gathering the documentation I've spread across the table. You have 1 week to find a new place. I've already verified the will with the county clerk and confirmed my legal standing. The locks change on Friday. You can't just throw us out, Mom cries. Where will we go? The question catches in my chest a barb of guilt amid the righteousness. But I think of Dad's books packed away in the attic, of the opened mail, of 6 years of calculated deception. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day, Mom. I'm sure Greg has a plan. His silence tells me everything. I walk out, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my steps steady. For the first time since coming home, I feel something like power returning. Dad always said that people who take what isn't theirs count on you being too polite to demand it back. I'm done being polite. Have you ever discovered someone close to you had been lying for years? How did you handle the betrayal? Rachel is about to show exactly how to take back your power. Greg's text comes at 7 a.m. Family meeting, kitchen, 8 p.m. tonight. I place my phone face down on the hotel desk and continue typing up my eviction timeline. The audacity summoning me to a family meeting in my own house. The house where I'm currently not welcome to sleep. The locksmith arrives at 9 a.m. sharp. All exterior doors, he confirms, equipment bag slung over his shoulder. Yes, I say. And I'll need 6 sets of keys. He raises an eyebrow but asks no questions. I like that. While he works, I drive to the county clerk's office with a folder of documents. My father's will, the property deed, my identification. The clerk, a woman with silver-streaked hair and efficient movements, verifies everything methodically. Property taxes are current, she notes, looking up. But utility accounts are being transferred today, I finish. Each item on my list gets checked off with purpose. By afternoon, I'm meeting with my father's old lawyer, Derek, in his downtown office. He slides the eviction notices across his desk. This gives them exactly 1 week, he explains. The law allows for longer, but given the circumstances. I sign where indicated. 1 week is generous. Something unwinds in my chest with each signature. The tightness that's lived there since I tried my key in the lock loosens just a fraction. At 8 p.m., I walk into what used to be my kitchen. Greg sits at the head of the table, my father's place. Mom's eyes are already red-rimmed. Josh slouches against the counter, glaring. Sit down, Rachel, Greg says, using his boardroom voice. I remain standing. This won't take long. This, Mom sniffles, is about family. Is it? I place my leather portfolio on the table. Because family doesn't conspire to steal from each other. Josh pushes off from the counter. You're destroying everything. This is my home. No, Josh, it's not. I keep my voice level. And that's not your fault, but it is the reality. Greg leans forward, elbows on the table. Rachel, be reasonable. We've lived here for 6 years. We've put money into improvements, under adverse possession, which requires the true owner to be unaware of the occupation. I cut him off, sliding the first document across the table. I visited. We exchanged emails about the house. I have proof I was aware of and permitted your residence here. Your adverse possession claim would never stand. His face flushes deep red. And here, I continue, placing down the second document, is the eviction notice. You have 1 week. Mom gasps. 1 week. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern. The words taste metallic, necessary. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day. Greg stands abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. You ungrateful little. I wouldn't. I meet his gaze. The property is now under surveillance. Any damage, any items removed that aren't personal belongings, will result in additional legal action. The mask slips. In his eyes, I see the calculation, the fury of a man whose scheme is collapsing. You'll regret this, he hisses. I nod once. Probably, but I'll regret it in my house. The next morning, Allison from work arrives with coffee and determination. Where do we start, she asks, surveying the living room. I hadn't expected this colleagues I've known for barely 3 weeks showing up with moving boxes and cleaning supplies. Behind Allison, Mark and Jen unload more supplies from Mark's truck. Dad's study, I answer. We start there. Josh's belongings have already been cleared out, relocated to the basement, I assume. The walls are bare except for tack marks where posters hung. The blinds still block my father's favorite garden view. As we work, removing the blinds and cleaning years of teenage existence from the space, there's a knock at the door. Mr. Winters, our neighbor for 20 years, stands on the porch. In his weathered hands, he holds garden tools my father's. Thought you might want these back, he says. Tom asked me to keep an eye on them while they were gardening. The air quotes are audible. Never saw much gardening happen, though. I run my fingers over the worn wooden handles. Thank you. Your dad was a good man. Mr. Winters nods firmly. Built this place right. Made it to last. Something about his simple acknowledgement of my father, the first I've heard since returning, breaks through my carefully maintained composure. My eyes burn. Would you like to come in for coffee? I ask. His stories about Dad last through 2 cups. Each one rebuilds something inside me that's been crumbling for 6 years. By early evening, Greg returns. I'm in Dad's study, now hanging the nautical prints that Mr. Winters had also kept an eye on for me. This is ridiculous. Greg announces from the doorway. You can't just... I can and I am. I tap the nail into place and hang the third print of Schooner under full sail. I've spoken to my lawyer. His voice holds less conviction than this morning. I turn slowly. Good. Then he'll have explained exactly how solid my position is, and how your attempted adverse possession could be viewed as fraud. He flinches. Where's Mom? I ask. As if summoned, she appears behind him, eyes fixed on the study's transformation. You found the pictures, she whispers. Mr. Winters saved them, along with Dad's tools. I straighten a frame. Why, Mom? Why did you let this happen? She steps into the room, her fingers twisting together, that nervous habit I've seen my whole life. It was easier. After Tom died, everything was so hard. Greg said he'd handle everything. And then one change led to another, and soon it seemed impossible to go back. The truth is so mundane, so human. No grand conspiracy, just weakness and convenience. Josh appears in the hallway, watching silently. I'm sorry, Rachel, Mom says, and for the first time since I arrived, I believe her. I just wanted things to be easy. Well, they're not easy now, I reply. 1 week, Mom. Find a place. That night, after they've gone out to look at apartments, I assume I tour my reclaimed space. Dad's old banker box of photos sits on the dining room table. One by one, I restore them to walls and shelves. Here's Dad teaching me to fish. Here we are building a bookshelf together. Mom and Dad on their 15th anniversary. I place the last photo Dad in this very study, surrounded by his books in the desk. It's almost midnight when I finally collapse onto my childhood bed, still covered in guest room linens, but mine again. For the first time in 6 years, I sleep in my true home. But just as Rachel thought the battle was won, she discovered something that would make Greg's betrayal even more sinister. What hidden evidence would turn this family drama into an all-out war? The camera shutter clicks as I document the chipped baseboard in what used to be my father's study. Evidence. Each photograph catalogs what they've done to my home. Don't miss the water damage in the corner, calls Elaine, my father's former colleague and now my lawyer. Her heels click against the hardwood as she marks items on her clipboard. Document everything before they're out. Already got it. I adjust the camera settings for better lighting. Through the viewfinder, I capture Josh's basketball posters. The adhesive that's damaged the carefully painted walls beneath. Dad would hate seeing his craftsmanship disrespected this way. The professional cleaners arrive at exactly 8 a.m. I scheduled them deliberately early enough that Greg can't interfere, late enough that it's perfectly reasonable. The team leader, a woman with efficiently pulled back hair, hands me a detailed contract. We'll have everything sanitized and restored within 48 hours, she says. Just in time for your official move-in date. I sign the paperwork, another calculated move. Every decision now carries equal weight, creates a paper trail. Elaine nods approvingly. The formal communications went out yesterday, she says, her voice low. The property boundaries are clearly established, and any further claims will be met with immediate legal action. Good. My voice sounds stronger than I feel. A crash from the kitchen interrupts us. I rush down the hallway to find Greg attempting to remove the high-end faucet he installed last year. What are you doing? I keep my voice level despite the fury boiling inside me. These fixtures are mine, he grunts, wrench still gripped in his hand. I paid for them. Those fixtures are attached to the property, Elaine says from behind me, her lawyer voice in full effect. Remove them, and it's damage to the premises. Greg's face flushes dark red. He drops the wrench with a clatter, stalking past us without a word. Later that afternoon, my phone pings with notifications. Social media alerts. Josh has posted a carefully angled selfie in his room. Caption reading, "Last night in my childhood home because my greedy stepsister is kicking us out. Real family doesn't do this to each other." I should feel hurt. Instead, I screenshot it for Elaine. Another notification appears, a message from Mrs. Keller, our next-door neighbor for 15 years. "Rachel, I just had a disturbing conversation with your stepfather. He came over asking if I would sign a statement about their improvements to the house. When I asked questions, his story kept changing. Just wanted you to know I'm on your side." My phone buzzes again. A community group text from my mother. "Please keep our family in your thoughts as we navigate an unexpected housing change. Some of you have asked how you can help us during this difficult time." I set my phone down, refusing to engage. The professional cleaner catches my eye, raising an eyebrow at the sound of my continued notifications. "Family drama," I explain simply. "We see it all the time," she replies, voice neutral. "Especially in inheritance situations." By evening, 3 of my colleagues from the financial firm arrive with takeout and determination. Marisol starts unboxing my kitchen supplies, while David and Kim hang my father's nautical prints back in their rightful places. "My aunt went through something similar," says Marisol, carefully arranging glasses in the cabinet. "Her brother tried claiming their mother's house after caring for her. The courts shut that down fast. The neighbors keep stopping by," Kim adds, straightening a frame. "That older gentleman brought over what he said were your dad's garden tools. Said he'd been safe keeping them. Mr. Reeves, Dad's best friend." My throat tightens. "Everyone's being incredibly supportive," David says, unpacking books. "You know what that means, right? They knew what was happening wasn't right." My phone rings, Josh's name flashing on the screen. I silence it. Not ready for that conversation yet. From the window, I spot Greg and my mother arguing in their packed car. I can't hear the words, but their gestures tell enough. Her head is in her hands. His face is tight with fury. Even from this distance, I can see the cracks forming in their united front. The phone buzzes again. A text from Josh. "Did Dad really try to sell the house? Is that true?" Another message arrives before I can respond, this one from my mother. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I never should have let this happen. Can we talk? Just us?" I set the phone down without replying. Through the front window, I watch their car finally pull away. Greg's angry profile visible through the windshield, my mother's silhouette slumped beside him. My house keys feel solid in my palm, new keys for new locks. When I discovered what Greg had been planning for my father's home, I knew there was no going back. The final confrontation would change everything. I close the curtains and turn back to my friends, my new family, who continue restoring my father's memory to these walls. The doorbell rings at exactly 10:17 a.m. I've been expecting this. Through the window, I spot Greg's silver Audi in my driveway. Deborah slumped in the passenger seat, face angled away from the house. Josh stands awkwardly beside Greg on my porch, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his oversized hoodie, shoulders hunched. I take a steadying breath, my father's watch heavy on my wrist, and open the door. Rachel. Greg forces a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. We've come to pick up a few things. I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon. I block the doorway, one hand still on the knob. Plans changed. He gestures to the house behind me. We won't take long. There are just some items that belong to us. I noticed the rental truck parked across the street. Not just a few things then. What items specifically? My voice stays calm, controlled. I've prepared for this moment for days. Greg's smile tightens. The dining room set, for one. Deborah's grandmother's, and the antique mirror in the hallway. My father's mirror? The one he restored himself? I raise an eyebrow. And the dining set he built for his and Mom's 5th anniversary? Josh looks up sharply, confusion crossing his face. Deborah remembers it differently, Greg says, shifting his weight. I'm sure she does. I step back, allowing them entry. Come in, let's discuss this properly. They follow me to the living room, Josh trailing behind, eyes darting around the transformed space. I've spent the past week restoring my father's presences photographs back on the walls, his books returned to shelves, his favorite chair angled toward the window as it always was. I have something to show you, I say, retrieving a folder from the side table. Greg remains standing, arms crossed. We don't need paperwork, Rachel. We just need to get our things and go. Actually, you do need to see this. I extract a document, handing it to him. This is my father's will, specifying every item of significance in this house, including the dining set and hallway mirror. Both specifically left to me. His eyes narrow as he scans the page. This doesn't... And this, I continue, extracting another document, is the appraisal of those items from when my father died. And this, another paper, is the insurance coverage specifying them as heirlooms protected under my policy. Josh steps closer, peering at the documents in Greg's hands. Dad? His voice carries an edge of uncertainty I've never heard before. Greg ignores him. This doesn't change anything. We've maintained these items for years. Maintained them while living rent, free in my home, I remind him. And there's something else you should know. I walk to the small security camera mounted in the corner of the living room. I've installed these throughout the house, including one in my father's study that recorded you last week, searching through the remaining documents in his desk. The color drains from Greg's face. I also have copies of the emails you sent to Riverdale Realty 3 months ago, I say, pulling out printed emails with his name clearly visible. The ones discussing selling this house my house after I agreed to the arrangement you were planning to propose. Josh's head snaps toward his father. You were going to sell the house? You said we were just moving to something smaller because... Josh, wait in the car. Greg's voice cuts like steel. Number. Josh steps away from him. You told me Rachel was being selfish, that she was trying to kick us out after we'd taken care of her house for years. That's what he needed you to believe, I tell Josh gently. Just like he needed Mom to believe she was doing what was best for everyone. The front door opens, and Deborah finally appears, eyes red-rimmed, arms wrapped around herself. She looks smaller somehow, diminished. Greg, please, let's just go, she says, not meeting my eyes. We're not leaving without what's ours. Greg insists, but his voice has lost its conviction. Nothing here is yours, I say firmly, and I think you need to leave now. You ungrateful little. He steps toward me, finger pointed. Don't. Deborah's hand catches his arm. She's right, it's over, Greg. His head whips toward her, disbelief etched across his face. What did you say? I said it's over. Her voice strengthened slightly. I never should have let this happen. Rachel's right about everything. Mom. I start, surprised by her intervention. Greg jerks away from her touch. After everything I've done for you, for that ungrateful son of yours? Josh flinches as if struck. For us? Deborah's laugh holds no humor. You were planning to sell Rachel's home out from under all of us. Where exactly did you think we'd go with that money, Greg? The silence that follows her question tells us everything. Get out, I say quietly, power settling into my bones. All of your belongings were moved to the garage yesterday. Take them and leave. Greg's face contorts with fury, But faced with 3 pairs of eyes mind steady, Deborah's resigned, Josh is betrayed, he finds no leverage. This isn't over, he spits, storming toward the door. It is for me, I reply. Deborah lingers, tears streaming silently down her face. Rachel, I'm so sorry. For everything. I don't answer. 6 years of betrayal can't be erased with a single apology. She follows Greg out, shoulders bent under the weight of her choices. Josh stands frozen in the middle of my living room, caught between worlds. I didn't know, he says finally, about any of it. I believe you, I tell him, because I do. But that doesn't change what happens now. He nods, understanding but not accepting, and turns to go. At the doorway, he pauses. Would it be okay if I texted you sometime? The question hangs between us, complicated and raw. Through the window, I watch Greg throwing boxes into the rental truck, Deborah standing helplessly beside the car. I don't know yet, I answer honestly. Josh nods again and walks out, the door closing softly behind him. I stand in the entryway of my father's house, me house breathing, in the quiet that follows their departure. For the first time in 6 years, I feel the foundation solid beneath my feet. The walls truly mine. The inheritance my father left me, not just the structure, but the strength to reclaim it settles around me like a protective embrace. I turn the deadbolt with a satisfying click. 2 months have passed, and I can finally breathe inside these walls again. The smell of lemon oil permeates the air as I polish the oak banister Dad crafted by hand 20 years ago. Natural light pours through uncovered windows, illuminating corners that Greg had kept perpetually shadowed. I've stripped away the cold white paint, restoring the warm gold that Dad always said makes a house feel like someone's waiting up for you. Every weekend since they left has been dedicated to resurrection, not renovation. There's a difference. One erases, one remembers. In Dad's Study Me Study, Noah's nautical prints hang exactly where they used to. The glass newly polished, but the frames bearing the same small nick from when I threw a baseball indoors at age 7. His leather chair sits by the bay window, rest-stitched where it had cracked from neglect in the attic. When I sit there, reading with evening light falling across the pages, I sometimes feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder. The doorbell chimes, pulling me from my thoughts. Just let yourself in, I call, arranging a final cluster of hydrangeas in the dining room centerpiece. Voices fill the entryway, May from the financial firm, Davis from next door, and Sarah, my college roommate, who drove 2 hours to be here tonight. The same dining room where Greg once suggested I find an apartment now hums with genuine laughter. This place is transformed, May says, handing me a bottle of wine. It's like a completely different house from when I helped you move in. Same bones, different heart, I reply, leading them through to the dining room. We settle around the table beneath the watchful gaze of Dad's portrait that now hangs on the wall. His eyes seem to crinkle with approval as I pour wine into glasses that I found wrapped in newspaper in the attic, the same ones Mom and Dad received as wedding gifts. To new beginnings, Davis toasts, his glass catching the light. The conversation flows naturally, none of the strained politeness that characterized Greg's domain. I relax into my chair at the head of the table, Dad's old spit hand, allow myself to enjoy the warmth of connection without obligation. Later, after everyone is gone, I sit on the porch swing with a cup of tea, watching fireflies rise from the garden I've coaxed back to life. Dad's rose bushes are blooming again after years of neglect. Like me, they just needed someone to care. My phone chimes with a text notification. Josh's name appears on the screen. Can we talk sometime? When you're ready, no pressure. I don't respond immediately. Dr. Levine, my therapist, has helped me understand that healing doesn't require immediate forgiveness. That boundaries aren't just walls but foundations. 3 unopened letters from Mom sit in my desk drawer. I'm not ready yet, but not ready isn't the same as never. The neighbor across the street waves as she walks her dog, the same woman who slipped me Dad's garden tools the day after Greg and Mom left, saying she'd held on to them for safekeeping all these years. Tomorrow, I'll help Cam from work navigate his inheritance dispute with his brother. His gratitude when I offered feels uncomfortable. I'm not an expert, just someone who learned boundaries the hard way. But perhaps that's enough. I trace my fingers along the porch railing Dad built, feeling every whorl and grain of the wood. The house settles around me with familiar creaks and sighs as twilight deepens. Through the window, I can see Dad's photograph watching over the empty dining room, the echo of laughter still hanging in the air. Some houses are just buildings. This one is my inheritance, not just of property, but of who I am.